Hey, wealth managers. This is Mark Fuller from Manager of Wealth. Thank you for joining me today. I just want to take a few quick moments to chat on a topic that I was having a conversation with some friends about the other day. And I thought it might be a great thing for us to talk about and for you to comment about. And that is why you should stop saying everybody or nobody when it comes to trying to build and discuss wealth. Now, what do I mean about those words, everybody and nobody? Well, many times we get in debates with our friends over a wide variety of things. And sometimes those conversations are about business and wealth building and what have you. And as a person seeks to make their point, they will say, well, everybody knows or everybody does and blah, 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 blah. And I always stop people in those conversations when they get to the everybody and nobody part of the conversation. Because what I realize, because I study the statistics, is that everybody isn't doing anything. And nobody applies equally. What do I mean by that? Well, if we look statistically, a very small number of people, and I hope that if you're watching this, that at some point in your life, you either are one of those people or you will be one of those people. Very few people make it financially in America. Very few people retire securely. In fact, the number is under 12%. So just think about when you go out in the morning and you're in rush hour traffic on the highway and you see all those millions of people out there, and know that with all of the effort that all of these people are putting in, that there is only a very small number of those people. I mean, statistically, that number is less than 12% that are going to retire financially secure, where it's all going to be worth it. An even smaller number of those people who may retire financially secure will be leaving any real wealth to the next generation. And of those who do, that very, very small number, probably 2 or 3% that leave any real wealth to the next generation, that wealth, because certain parameters and guidelines and things are not put in place, will not last more than 3 generations. So when we have these quote unquote high level conversations about money, we've got to understand that there's a lot missing from the conversation. And the truth is that the vast majority of Americans, no matter what your ethnic persuasion is, the vast majority of Americans, first of all, are working class and living check to check. But even more importantly, they are not engaged mentally in trying to figure out how to become wealthy. They are not engaged in how to become rich. And that is simply a fact. And so when we have these everybody and nobody conversations around money, we can understand why people fail. Because listen, most people voluntarily spend their entire working life not understanding finances and money and doing the right things. And when many people, and I'll use the word many, people try to engage around finance and trying to figure it out, and they are largely in the pursuit of riches and not in the pursuit of wealth, because they do not really understand what wealth is. Now, for the sake of this conversation, we're going to use, on this channel, we're going to use the definition of wealth as this: being able to meet all of your needs, most of your wants, and being able to leave a financial legacy for future generations. That is wealth. If you have all the money you need to meet all of your needs and obligations at present, if you were able to get most of your wants and things that you aspire to because you have the resources to do so without going into poverty or upsetting the balance of your budget, And if you were able to leave a financial legacy along with instructions, parameters, and guidelines for the next generation that keep the next generation from blowing up the plan that you put in place, but also leave them instructions as to how to expand on the nest egg that you have built for them, well, then you, my friend, can be considered wealthy. And I need to share something with you. This term that people are using, generational wealth. If you hear that term, I always say there's two terms that have absolutely no real meaning in American culture. One of those words is financial literacy, because the things that they teach as financial literacy, and I'm going to do another video on this, the things they teach as financial literacy are not literate. It's not what you would do if you had a lot of resources. It just isn't. And it's not what the wealthy do with their money. And then two, generational wealth. And what most term generational wealth actually ends up being generational riches. What do I mean by that? Well, the reason that I call it generational riches is because what most people who are even in pursuit of financial stability do is they work hard, whether it be through employment or whether it be through owning a business. They build up a lot of capital. They buy some assets, real estate, this, that, and the third. They have those assets. They die, they pass those assets on to the next generation, who is rarely interested in your assets and owning what you owned. That's a whole other story. Rarely with any instructions or guidelines or parameters like, hey, here's $10 million, you're going to have to live off of the interest and you can never touch the principal, so that we can always perpetually have more money and you can have cash flow. That's generally what people refer to as a trust fund. Most people are not doing that, okay? They're giving no guidelines. They're giving no secrets to how the money was made in the first place, and no guidelines that require anybody to do what they did. And so the money is then passed on. And what happens is you make your money, you retire, you live on your money and its interest, and whatever's left over you leave to the next generation. That's most people's plan. Live, acquire, live off of, leave whatever's left over, and hope that the generation after you has enough information to grow what you've left and build on top of it. And what we're finding statistically is that, of course, those next generations don't have enough information, education, and guidance to grow those assets. So by the time you get to the second or third generation, it's largely squandered. So generational wealth is really generational riches. It's how long can I stretch this money? So what we have to understand is we need to start operating with a better blueprint, because we're having these conversations in an echo chamber. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're tapped in to financial education and trying to understand how to build wealth, how to build a business, look around you, look in your phone and ask yourself a question. When I'm at a financial seminar, how many of my friends are there? When I'm at a financial seminar, how many of my family members are there? How many of my business colleagues are there? How many of my coworkers are there? And if you're like me, I've traveled around the country and to other parts of the world and been in financial and business seminars. And I saw, first of all, very few people who looked like me, unfortunately, which I love to see myself reflected in that room. I honestly go meet every black person in a room when I'm in a financial seminar and I see somebody that looks like me, wherever they are from in the world. I make sure I make that relationship. And that's just me, because it is such a rarity. And I love it so much. And those have become some major relationships in my life that have really spanned more than 30 years of people that I met at different seminars and events. But my friends weren't in that room. My family wasn't in that room. My business colleagues were not in that room. And so you have to understand that if you're in a 1%, 2% room and your people that are connected to you, that rely on you, that pull from you, are not in that room, then it's very hard to build with those folks as your anchor. And you have to recognize that, because one of the things that frustrated me endlessly through my 20s and 30s and 40s as I was moving around and growing and acquiring information and learning to build a business and learning to build assets, was that as I was sharing that information with my friend and family circle and stuff like that, I didn't realize till almost my 50s that I didn't realize, I knew what I was saying. What I did not know is what people were hearing. What do I mean by that? I knew if I was explaining to you what the right type of life insurance policy was, if I was explaining to you how to exponentially grow capital, if I was explaining to you how the housing market worked or any of those things, I know what I'm saying, but I don't know what you understand and I don't know what you hear when I say that. So I may be talking to you about life insurance as a tool for wealth building, but I may be explaining to you which policies to use and which policies not to use based on the value that you get out of them. You may be hearing, this is a person trying to sell me some life insurance. That just may be what you hear because that's your life experience, right? And if you're the type of person that doesn't want to be sold life insurance, if life insurance makes you think about your death and all of these things, then I may be giving you all the game on how to get the most value out of a life insurance policy, how to leave the most value for your family, how to avoid all taxes and pass on a tax-free legacy. But you've missed all of that because you were focused on what you are hearing. And what you are hearing is, A, I don't want to buy anything, and B, for me to take advantage of what you're talking about, I have to be dead. Now, that isn't even remotely true, but if it's what you're hearing, it's what you're hearing. And often if people don't have the same education, information, and knowledge that you do, they're not going to hear what you are trying to share and the wisdom that you are giving them, because it's counterintuitive to the knowledge and information that they've had before. And this is why when you get into these conversations and these debates about finance and people start throwing around words like everybody and nobody, well, nobody does that because, if you do that, it's going to cost this. When you get into these conversations and these debates about finance and I remember the conversation about whether to use cash value life insurance or whether to do buy term and invest the difference. And people were like, hey, back in the 80s and 90s, people were adamant about following a guy named A.L. Williams and which is now Primerica. And everybody was like, man, no, you need to buy a term policy and invest the difference and you're going to have a lot of money and blah, blah, blah. And of course, nobody was investing the difference, number one. Number two, there's never a bad time to pass on millions of dollars tax-free to your heirs. And if you ever added up all the money that was invested into a proper life insurance policy over the rest of the years that you live, and realize that only if you use a cash value policy, only a small part of that money is the insurance. The rest of it is all cash in your pocket. So when people are telling you that that's expensive, they're using a word that is really undefined when it comes to insurance policies, because there's the mortality cost, which is the insurance, and then there's the cash value. And that cash value passing on tax-free is infinitely more valuable to you, to your family, to your heirs, to your legacy, to your plans than anything that anybody else is talking about. But everybody is doing what everybody wants to do. What does everybody want to do? They want to spend as little money as possible on this thing that requires their eventual death. Well, that's foolishness. But again, when you get caught into the everybody, nobody circular way of thinking, and you're following the information, advice, and thoughts of people that are no wiser than you are, instead of following your goals and your ambition and seeking wisdom. See, this is the thing. There's only a small number of people in the United States that actually seek wisdom around the things that they want to know, that actually have as an internal default that if there's something that I need to know, something that will affect my health, something that will affect my family, something that will affect my condition and the condition of my heirs going forward, the thing that I will commit to is I will commit to learning what I need to know and then doing what I need to do. That is a huge commitment to make in this society, because this society keeps you distracted with a lot of foolishness. It keeps you distracted going from holiday to holiday, birthday party to birthday party, football game to football game. When so much of your time is taken up, it devours your youth, it devours your health, it devours your finances, and it leaves most people in this country at the end of their work life, at the end of their youth, at the end of their most productive years. It leaves them broken and broke. And so I want to encourage you to really extricate yourself from that trap. Commit to yourself that whatever it is you have to do to not be in the circle of everybody and anybody and nobody, that you will get yourself out of that circle. And the number one way you can get your way out of that circle is to have goals and plans and commit to yourself that you will put your time, energy, effort, and resources into learning what you need to learn and doing what you need to do to really build yourself. And that's around your intellect and knowledge. That's around your health. That's around your finances. If you commit to that, you break yourself out. And so that when you are in a debate around any topic, you will come to that debate with knowledge to share, wisdom to share, and you will be able to point to what the source of that information is. You will not be a wandering generality and speaking in general terms all the time about people and what people do and this, that, and the third. You'll be able to lay that aside and talk in real specifics. When I talk to you about finance, I'm talking to you about some 1%, 2%, top 5% stuff. I'm giving you resources so that you can go and research and read. You're not going to get everything from a YouTube video, no matter how much anybody tries to pack into one of our talks. It simply all can't be fleshed out. But before you even delve into a subject, you have to understand that all knowledge is available. It's there. There are people with that information. And you should commit to checking behind people. I know what I see a lot of is people wanting to check on people. Like, they don't even consider whether what a person said is true. What they want to do is look somebody up, like what they said is true or is not true or whatever, based on who they are. And I'm telling you, I've got some absolute jewels from some people who, if I went off of who they used to be 30 years ago, you know, because this is the thing, you can't get to my age. You can't be 52 and not have seen some people that have gone through some things. my interest is not in what you've necessarily been through. My interest is in what knowledge did you gain in going through it? What can you share? What is true? And what will be helpful going forward? And we have to get to a place, because we are so information deficient, that we know so little that we really need to know, that we have to become devourers of information and knowledge, and then the doers of the quality information and education that we get. If we don't, we are not going to get to any place that yields generational wealth, that yields financial literacy, that yields good health. We need to be able to ask the right critical questions. And when we enter the debate around important topics that affect us, that affect our families, that affect our loved ones, that affect our friends, we are coming to the topics not as wandering generalities, but with specific knowledge and information. And then we are able to get together and really build. And building is what we need to do. Remember, statistically, only a small number of people make it. That does not necessarily need to be the case. You do not need to be born rich to become massively successful. But dying rich also does not guarantee the success of your family. Putting the right documents, instructions, and parameters in place for those riches is what turns those riches to wealth. And I'm telling you that statistically, very, very, very few people have those guidelines in place. And so I want you to really think about that. I didn't want to do a real heavy lesson today. I just wanted to talk about that. I want you to think about that. Think about who's around you. Think about who you're around. Are you bringing knowledge, information, wisdom to the table? Or are we just talking about anybody and everybody and nobody? Listen, have a fantastic day. Leave your comments to this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I look forward to our next conversation. Have a great day.